All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ali. I'm VP of Marketing here at Regal. And one of our favorite things to do is really amplifying our customer stories. The AI learning curve has been so steep, and there are so many new developments every day that we just love hearing about when our customers were able to really make it work and really rock out with great results. And so, for that reason, I'm really excited to be here with Liz from Clancy. Thank you so much for joining me, Liz. And I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself so that our audience can get to know you.
Thank you. Well, my name's Liz, short for Elizabeth, and I've been with Clancy since 2010, and I've seen firsthand how our contact operations have evolved. I help oversee areas tied to our customer communications, including the technologies that we use to ensure seamless service across our brands. On a daily basis, I deal with challenges like ensuring that we never miss a lead, maintaining a consistent customer experience, and keeping pace with modern expectations, especially around availability and accuracy.
Sounds like a really big job, and I have no doubt that Clancy has the right person to do it. Do you mind telling us just a little bit about what Clancy does, first off, for our audience who isn't familiar?
Sure. Well, we help customers during important transitions for their lives and for their business. And that's moves, logistics projects, warehousing, deliveries, really anything involving moving, storage, and logistics services. And what's really meaningful to us about that is knowing that we're taking the stress off their shoulders and literally doing the heavy lifting for them and making something that's more complex feel simple and dependable.
Wonderful. So for someone like you who owns a lot of the marketing and communication systems, I would love to hear a little bit about how data plays a key role in the decisions that you make.
Sure. Well, we look at call volume trends. We look at missed calls, call durations, the time on the phone, the time to book, and customer feedback from transcripts and recordings, conversion rates, and more.
And how do you use that data? That's like a lot of different data points. How do you use that to inform the decisions that you make?
Sure. Well, we're using it to spot weak points in our customer journeys and then make decisions about process improvements or technology upgrades, and Regal being a prime example of that.
Great. Well, before we dive into Regal too much, would love to just hear a little bit about sort of what your contact center setup looks like.
Right now, we have a hybrid model. We do have internal live agents, and we also rely on external agents like Regal for overflow and after hours. We don't currently use any specific booking programs, but we have integrated with our CRM via Zapier to push the information that we need directly into our systems. And we were also able to get the agents to receive calls sent from our Microsoft Teams in minutes. So our model for our contact center is a combination of live agents and AI agents,
Very
external.
cool. Well, I know everybody will be very eager to hear about the AI agents, but before we dive into that, I would love to get a sense from you. How do you, in your role, decide on new technology? Walk me through that process a little bit.
Sure. Well, we're looking for tools that, of course, integrate with our stack, tools that increase reliability, improve the customer experience, and are flexible enough to work across our different brands, because we do have different brands here at Clancy. We assess vendor performance closely and prioritize solutions that offer visibility and control.
Yeah, that makes
Simply
sense.
put, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we do look for tools that have very clear-cut ways to measure and report on how well it's doing or where can we make improvements. So that's how we make the decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why we love partnering with you here at Regal. That's a really important quality in the companies that we partner with is the ability to assess data, make improvements, A/B test, and continue to optimize over time. Would love to hear a little bit about your life sort of before Regal. So tell me a little bit about your tech stack and specifically answering services and things like that before Clancy started working with Regal.
Sure, that's what drew us to Regal was we were looking for an answering service replacement basically. And we had cycled through three vendors in the last decade and they all had great starts, but it fell apart over time due to staffing issues, high turnover, and limited capabilities. There were some cases longer hold times than we would like, poor audio quality, and no ability to provide pricing. And that was a part of the experience our customers were asking for. So it was something we wanted to deliver.
Yeah, we love to say in a joking way that whole times are for the old times. So glad that you guys and certainly your customers would agree. How did that legacy, tech stack and that turnover that impact your customer experience?
Sure. Well, customers, of course, if they were waiting, they would sometimes hear recordings, they would hear hold music. They would either wait or just hang up. And some people would never leave enough information behind. We'd call them back maybe the next day, see the missed call or later. It wasn't the experience that we wanted them to have. Other callers were confused or disappointed that, basic questions in FAQ couldn't be answered. So that did harm, in some cases, trust, with our customers.
Especially because you're there during some of the most important milestones in your customers' lives. I can definitely understand that. What were some of the risks
Mhm.
that you assessed with just sort of sticking with the status quo? Because I think that's what a lot of people would do, would just be to stay the course and not want to make a change.
Sure. Well, I mean, the risks of staying with the status quo of just get another answering service or maybe just put a voicemail box in place would be, lost revenues. I mean, especially during the evenings and weekends, and then when you've got peak seasons. So at our company, we do have residential and commercial services. So there are different times of the year where call volumes may exceed the norm and our normal team may become overburdened. Sometimes people are just calling with some basic questions. So if we can answer those and then respond better to them, this it just wasn't representing our brand the way we wanted to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And something else I wanted to add though was moving, whether it be a residential or a commercial move. Moving is one of life's most challenging event, one of the most stressful events. And that's been well documented that moving is one of life's most stressful events next to death and divorce. And it's a truth because we see that when callers are calling in, they're often very stressed out, they're anxious, they
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah, that makes sense. I moved myself recently. I can certainly attest to that. And it's great that you guys want to provide the same quality of experience to everyone, whether it's high season or low season for you guys. So I'm sure your customers appreciate that. Tell me a little bit about how you heard about Regal.
Sure. Well, I was looking through some different options for AI answering services. I actually looked into using some Google tools, some do-it-yourself options. I can be a little tech savvy and know enough to get dangerous, right? But I came across Regal as a solution that had a more intelligent and flexible alternative. Like they had something pretty much ready to go. It was like, and I loved how on the website there were a bunch of test agents that I could play with. I was like, okay, they've put together a really good sounding agent and in a way that it looks like there's going to be a good, easy path for me to own this. And I don't have to do all the investment of time and energy into configuring and making my own system. That's really not the smart way to go about this. When you're a business, you got to look for technologies and solutions that are, hopefully as much off the shelf ready to go and just some tweaking.
Yeah, that makes sense. You were involved in the decision to procure Regal, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, being a very techie person here at the companies, when new technology is selected, I'm often involved in the decision-making process because I understand our email systems, I understand our technology behind the scenes. I've set up and implemented many of these systems, so I can see where it can fit in very easily. So the main thing I was involved with was assessing the fit, testing the capabilities, and overseeing the implementation.
Yeah. And I'm guessing during this process you might have considered other AI vendors. Tell us about like that process for you.
Yes, so we did explore a few other vendors. I also, as I mentioned, explored some do-it-myself options where I could configure these things together. But Regal really stood out because of its pre-built customizations, the workflows, having strong support. That was a big thing to us. Being able to have a support team, not just something that I'm going to implement and now I'm going to have to babysit it forever.
Fair enough. I'm guessing that a lot of folks are probably in the same shoes you are right now, where they're evaluating AI options. Any advice that you would give them?
Sure. I mean, you need to look at the total cost of ownership and focus on whether or not the AI can handle real conversations and represent your brand and scale with you. Do test how they handle, nuanced and emotional situations because that's where a lot of agents can fall apart and sound completely not real and it just gets people upset. No one wants to be. I actually have a husband who loves to call in and when he hits an AI, he gets upset if it's not good enough. So I've had him call in and test and he was impressed, with it. So you really have to make sure that it can scale and how well would it be able to handle more brands as we continue to grow?
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest surprises for me is like, I think for a long time the conversation was a lot about can AI do things as well as humans? But
Hmm.
now people are starting to ask the question of like, what can AI do that humans can't? And it's being able to have the bandwidth to navigate emotional or stressful callers or, understand people when they're flustered or, in situations of high stress. And so I'm glad that you guys are able to experience that. This first kicked off for you. Were you hesitant to try AI, especially because AI voice is so rapidly developing?
Yes, I mean, I was hesitant to implement it at first, and there was some initial hesitation from the team too. We weren't sure how customers were going to respond, but I will say that the early results, including customers not realizing it was AI, proved we made the right call. No
Uh,
pun intended.
Yeah, well, we thank you for your trust and your belief in our team. I think a lot of why Clancy is so successful with Regal has been the implementation process. I would love to talk a little bit about that journey. So, first, just from your perspective, tell us a little bit about what the implementation was like for you.
Sure. Well, the Regal team was highly responsive when it came to let's go through the implementation, let's document it. We had some really good documents and project plans put together. We launched one of our brands first based on the brand that had the lowest call volume. So that this way we could more quickly measure it and improve on it with limited exposure, like limited risk. So that was something that we did as part of our journeys. We launched our smaller brand first with lower call volume so that this way we reduce the amount of risk that we had. Again, we were hesitant, so we stepped into it lightly and carefully. And then we phased into our other brands that had higher and higher call volumes as our confidence grew. And the Regal team was very attentive to the nuances of our business. And I'm not sure if you can include this, but I definitely would love to give a shout out and say thank you very much to Irene and also to Daniel, who, really were exceptional when it came to supporting our implementation.
Yeah, and for sure we'll include that. Irene and Daniel are MVPs, so I'm happy that you had a great experience with them. We hear that all the time. I think for so many people going through this same adoption curve that you have, there's a lot of pushback internally, whether it's, like the IT folks or the systems folks, sometimes even legal, and then other folks who, are involved in, on the revenue side or own the P&L for, whatever voice is helping you accomplish. Tell me a little bit about if there was any concerns or pushback internally and sort of how that process went.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's always some pushback when it comes to, oh, we're adding another vendor to our stack. There's always some pushback with, well, what's that going to cost? So those two things were addressed by one, we were replacing something that we had already budgeted for, which was our call handling. So then the challenge was to deliver more value. And once our team and I saw the call transcripts and we saw how well the agent was handling real conversations, then it brought people on board fairly quickly.
I think as you go out and look at the market for AI, so many vendors, promise like instant setup, instant implementation. I would love to get like the real take from you on how long integration took and sort of your perspective on that.
Sure. Well, I mean, the core setup handled very quickly. I remember we had our first agent up and running in a matter of weeks. But we did do some fine tuning of scripts and testing extensively before we felt comfortable allowing the agent to handle our during business hours overflow. And we started with the overflow so that this way, if there was an issue, someone could call them back live very quickly. So again, the core setup happened in a matter of weeks. Then fine tuning was phased over a course of months, where we started with one brand at a time, working from the lowest volume of calls to the highest volume.
You have a pretty massive tech stack, as most people in your role do. Tell me a little bit about like Regal's integration with your tech stack.
Sure. Well, we haven't integrated with booking platforms yet, but we have successfully integrated with our CRM using Zapier. And that was very straightforward, where a webhook was created on the Regal side, and then Zapier receives it, and then it allows us to push the details that we need into our CRM. We also, I was thinking about it just this morning, we connected the agents to our Microsoft Teams environment right from within the platform in a matter of minutes. It was as easy as just going into Microsoft Teams and adding the phone numbers, the direct phone numbers for Regal in there for the agents, for the appropriate agents. So it was very seamless in that respect and quick.
Great. Well, now that you're sort of on the other side, tell us a little bit about how important the integration process was for you and sort of what your take is on it now after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't want a solution that was going to create more work for us. So Regal fit in and enhanced the systems that we already use.
To hear.
That's the essentials of it. I mean, it just enhances it, made it better.
Awesome. We'd love to hear that. Obviously, you went through this whole process to try and drive increased revenue and increased results for Clancy. So I wanted to focus a little bit on results for the moment. So we talked a little bit about like why you pursued this, why the status quo wasn't working, but ultimately, first, did AI end up solving the problems that you were facing?
Yeah, so one of the big things is we no longer worry about missed calls. We know the call is being answered by somebody, or in this case, by an agent. So we no longer worry about long hold times or a lack of detailed information about calls. And customers are getting what they need quickly and reliably. And we got transcriptions, recordings, and detailed call summaries. So it solved problems we were facing, the missed calls, long hold times, lack of detailed information, by providing, what we needed.
Great. Love to hear that. If you could think through maybe the biggest impact that using Regal has had on Clancy's business, what is that from your perspective?
Well, with one of our brands, we're actually directly converting more leads, leveraging the agent, especially on weekends, because the agent's answering FAQs and then guiding callers with the information that they ask for, and then saying, okay, are you ready for the next step? Let's make a delivery going. And then it just walks right into that. So it's giving peace of mind knowing that we're not missing key details.
Yeah.
And of course, able to convert more is very nice.
Yeah, critical. Tell me about some of the other standout changes that you've experienced using Regal.
Sure. Well, surprisingly shorter call times. The agents are very efficient. They're not, obviously no one's being put on hold or waiting. There's no recorded messages and things like that to sit through or hold music. So the actual whole call time is between 1 and 2 minutes. And, we're getting a surprising amount of positive feedback. One caller in particular even responded to our agent saying, "Oh, you're a person. You're not a recording. Hi." And then the agent handled a very sensitive situation. Again, some of these calls that we're receiving are from people in a very stressful situation. The caller was calling in to cancel their appointment because of a death in the family. And with emotional intelligence, responding with the closing of the call was take care instead of something tone deaf. And during the call, the agent, of course, offered condolences. So it's important that we build that in. So it has been a pleasant surprise that the agent has been able to transition from, taking callers' information, answering FAQs, providing pricing to, also answering questions and addressing things that we might not have thought about.
Yeah. What do you think now that you've had some time with the AI agent at Clancy? What do you think makes it so special from your perspective?
It's efficient, emotionally aware, and always on script 24/7. So it's giving us better control over an important step in our customers' journeys.
Yeah. What about outside of that? Are there workflow improvements that you've experienced using the AI agent?
Yes, so with recordings and transcripts, we're learning a lot more from each call. It's helped us refine messaging, streamline our booking process, and empower our internal team with insights. So we're learning and we're making changes to our call handling, which the goal, of course, is to improve our customers' experience.
Love to hear that. What about any KPI improvements that you can share with us?
Mhm. Booking. Now, I didn't go into full analysis mode yet on all of it, but it's pretty straightforward and obvious that booking rates are up, especially in the brands that are leveraging the pricing, the agent providing some pricing, answering questions that customers call in wanting. Call abandonment is down. You still get calls that people, I want to make sure people know this. You're still going to get phone calls where people don't even wait for an answer. They just hang up because they called the wrong number. So there is going to be some abandonment still. It's not going to be completely zero, right? But when someone answers the phone, the agent answers and greets them. There's less of those calls being hung up on. The call handling wait times, the hold times eliminated. So we've got booking rates up, call abandonment down, and wait times zero.
That's great. Amazing to hear. No, I think my guess is that a lot of this is due to some of the distinctions within Regal's platform that sort of separate Regal from other AI agent providers or AI voice providers. So I want to talk a little bit about those. The first, and something that some of our customers really love is A/B testing. So tell me a little bit about your perspective on Regal's A/B testing.
Well, we've tested some different scripts and workflows, but no formal A/B testing at this time. I'm sorry. We're always presenting our callers with the very best version of us that we have. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. And I look forward to hopefully working with you guys on testing in the future.
well, if you're in the New York area, we do moving and storage services locally. So,
If only I'd known this a couple of
New
months ago.
York, Connecticut. Yeah, we serve the greater tri-state and then beyond. We operate across the United States, and we do everything from local, long distance to international services.
Well, one of our lifers here, her name is Julia. She's actually finally making the move from Boston to New York, so I'll have her give you guys a call
There you
and
go.
she
We
can
might be
speak
able
with
to
an
help
agent.
her out.
What about personalization via customer data? That's something that I think not all not voice providers give you, and certainly it's really hard to implement with some of those DIY providers like a Retail or a Sierra. Tell me a little bit about your experience with personalization using customer data.
Okay. Well, there's customer data that comes from systems that's integrated, right? And then there's customer data that is provided by the caller when they're calling in, right? Or when they're interacting with the agent. And I'm leading towards that piece where what's important is when the caller is providing information, a customer is providing information, they feel like they're having a real tailored conversation with a human because the agent is adapting based on their intent. So if they're calling in for something, it's going to ask, it's going to talk to them like they know them. The agents, I noticed, work best when they're spoken to like a real human. They do. So the more they're given, the better they work. I will also say we don't yet have it. There's nothing that's other than when they call in and they provide their name. So the agent is, if they're given a name, hi, Ms. Smith, it'll greet the caller and talk to them that way. So that does help because it's not a recording.
Yeah.
As one caller had pointed out, oh, good, you're not a recording.
Yeah, I think there's still so much confusion in the market about the difference between an AI agent that is autonomous versus like a deterministic bot. So,
Hmm.
all of us have had the experience where we've called our bank and we're not really pressing one, pressing two anymore. We're now using words. We're saying checking or savings, or we're giving
Hmm.
them, it's somewhat like a conversation, but it's not quite a conversation. And so I'm excited for more and more consumers just generally who work with our customers and beyond to experience like the joy of interacting with an agent.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about training. I think it's very hard to train human agents. It's costly, it's time consuming, and would love to hear your perspective on training the AI agents.
Sure. So, funny enough, I would say that it's about the same. Training in AI requires the same thought process, whether data and documentation. I'm sorry. I had someone walk up here. Real life, right?
Yeah?
All right, I'll start again there. I would say, funny enough, I could say it's about the same. Training in AI requires the same thought process. You have to think about what data and documentation does the agent need to best handle requests. You really got to think about what that is. What is the information? What data sources will they be pulling from? Is it a list? Is it a spreadsheet? What is it? What do they need? But once the agent's trained, it doesn't forget or improvise. The agent executes nearly flawlessly every time and efficiently guides the caller. So say it's about the same.
Yeah. Fair enough. What about unique product strengths that you've observed and now that you've been set up with the agent for quite some time?
Sure. Well, unique to Regal is these emotionally intelligent agents, these scripting. It's almost like the base agents underlying our customized agent are really great employees. Regal has strong integration capabilities using some very, out of the box type webhooks and things like that. I mean, we can connect to Zapier. That pretty much gives you everything that you would want. And the other thing about Regal is they have some very genuinely human-like voices, even when it comes to something like reading back a phone number at a pace that sounds like a human, because that combination of great scripting with human voice is rare.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your experience with the Regal team.
Hmm.
You called out Irene and Daniel earlier, both MVPs here on the Regal side. Tell us just a little bit about generally your experience with the Regal team. How's it been for you?
Sure, I would say it's excellent. I mean, it doesn't feel like a normal, it's the kind of vendor relationship that we want to have. Working with our key technical points of contact, in our case, Irene and Daniel, has felt a lot like a partnership.
Love to hear that. What about like when you need support quickly? Like how has that process been for you working with Regal?
Well, I would say, Irene, especially too in the beginning, the teams helped us define what is support, like what is an issue versus what is a feature or something we're working on. And we set up a process of back and forth checks and balances where we would report something, and then based on the business impact or severity of the issue or change, they were implemented in the order of highest, ranking basically. So we would report something, and very quickly Irene would jump in, or someone would, Daniel would I jump in and go, okay, I can see that's important to you guys. I'm going to make sure that's taken care of right away, before the weekend, before whenever. So they've been very conscious and caring of deliverables and deadlines.
And yeah, if you were advising someone else who is considering a new AI voice tool, what would you say
Hmm.
sets the Regal team apart in working with us?
Regal's tech team has been extremely responsive and great to collaborate with, and they've been committed to our success. And like I said, the response time frames and prioritization has shown that.
As we come to the close of our time here, want to talk a little bit about the future. So it's been so enlightening hearing a little bit about how you made the decision, the implementation process. But now that you're, through the woods of that, how does the rest of the team, maybe even the ones who are skeptical, feel about AI now?
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say they're impressed. Some were skeptical at first, and there may be some still, but the results are speaking for themselves.
That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about the agent handling now.
So right now, our agents are handling all of our existing brands inbound, overflow, and after hours calls.
And when you think about the next phase of growth with Regal, what does that look like for you guys?
Sure. I'm looking forward to doing some deeper integrations. As you mentioned, having some customer information perhaps pop in to more further, personalize the experience, allow them to perhaps do some self-scheduling via phone, integrating with calendar tools, more intelligent routing, and maybe some keyword spotting, things like that, integrating text, chat, potentially even outbound capabilities. It's exciting to be working with a platform, a product, and a team that gives us more options.
Yeah, and we love to keep our customers apprised of our product roadmap. Is there anything super exciting on the horizon that you're particularly looking forward to?
Well, I am looking forward to more of the self-service tools being built into the platform because I love to get my hands on this stuff and play around and test things out and do A/B testing and really work to streamline and further improve the customer's experience, the caller's experience. Because we don't just get customer calls at our company, we're also getting driver calls. We're also getting calls from vendors and other partners of ours, and they each have a experience they're expecting when they call us. 24/7, 365 days a year, because our company performs moving, storage, and logistics service at that schedule 24/7, 365 days a year.
It's exciting because I think the sky's really the limit, and there's no better feeling than finding a workflow that just like solves a big problem and takes something that was hard and makes it easy. So I look forward to hearing more about all of the success that Clancy has.
Yes, we're definitely looking forward to unifying communications across all of our touch points and leveraging that with AI.
Yeah. How do you see AI sort of shaping customer engagement for Clancy in the future?
Right. Well, the way I'm seeing AI is not so much, the future, it's the present. It's here. It's the talk, it's the buzz. It's not just a buzz though. It's businesses that adopt smart solutions such as AI early will have a major edge in responsiveness and personalization in ways that lead to higher customer satisfaction.
Completely agree. As we come to the end of our time, what advice would you give to other people in your role or who are in this a little earlier in the process of considering how to fold AI into their customer experience?
I would say don't wait, go for it. If you want to deliver 24/7 consistency, professionalism, and scale without burnout, AI is the way forward.
And yeah, lastly, would love to hear, maybe the most unexpected benefit that Regal has shown you.
Okay, so when we added the pricing piece to Regal, having the agent actually book rentals, it was a not expectation. It was like, okay, let's see how the agent does. But our agent's actually booking some rentals. I mean, we've been using Regal now for a few months for one of our brands in particular, and we're surprised at how the calls have been short, focused, practical. The callers are happy. And then they get their pricing, and then the agent says, okay, and when would you like your unit delivered? And that just segues perfectly into our team, doing the follow up and basically just collecting credit card and other details. So it was unexpected because we noticed that in that particular transaction example, the caller called in, got pricing, said thanks, I'm not ready to book yet, and then called back an hour later, still before our office even opened, and said, okay, I'm ready. I want my delivery to be this date. Agent goes, great, no problem. I'll have our team call you back soon. Our team called her back probably about 20 minutes later when the office opened and scheduled the rental. So we knew for years that callers expected to reach somebody and get pricing, but we were unable to accommodate them 24.
Very cool. I love to hear that. And yeah, it feels like in so many ways, smartly leveraging, AI agents is kind of like the cheat code to being able to be there for your customers 24.
So we're definitely going to do more with that. We want to do more with that. We want to make sure that, if they're calling in for scheduling an appointment or they want pricing, the next step is scheduling the appointment. So it's like, okay, how much further can we get them down the journey, down their path to being a happy customer with us? And then once they're a customer, they're calling back maybe because they want to check the status of something or they want to speak with someone in particular. So we actually need to add in, I could see it now, the vision for it. We're going to add in more transfers. We're going to add in some more intelligent workflows to it. Like I can see this.
I see it on the Liz vision board there, and I
Yes.
can't wait to hear
Can you
more.
see my vision board over here? You can see.
I look forward to hearing more about it. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I think so many folks are in the same position that you were maybe in before, where they're considering what to do next, questioning the status quo, and looking for a solution. And I'm so glad that you found one that works for you guys at Regal. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.